is being recorded.
Good morning, good evening, everyone, from whichever part of the world you are joining us, and welcome to VizConnect. My name is Sagar Kapoor, and I'm part of customer success team at Tableau. So VizConnect is all about connecting you with the art of data visualization and storytelling. It was started as a community project with one of the Tableau ambassador in India. Her name is Divya Bharti. And really, we wanted to create a platform to go ahead and connect all the Tableau champions and masters and share their learning across. So till now, we have hosted 29 sessions, 35 speakers. There will be out of them 9 were Tableau Zen Master, 5,000 plus attendees. We have a YouTube channel in which we have 500 plus subscribers, a LinkedIn group for people to go ahead and connect to each other. We have 600 members over there. And this has been possible with the help of our amazing speakers. They have been too kind to go ahead, come on a call and just talk to our community and share their knowledge and passion about data visualization and storytelling. So if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. We have a great content waiting for you over there. We have a LinkedIn group by the name of VizConnect. Go ahead, connect with each other, learn some tips and tricks, and stay connected. And let's get down to this, right? So we are a data company. We want to understand how exactly and what is the impact of VizConnect, right? So this is something which we go ahead and collect when you register for our sessions, right? Just to understand the impact of it. So the one thing over here is that just to understand how many people are new to VizConnect, right? So out of the all registered, we have 58% of them who is the first session over here. And you can see people are joining us around the globe, right? And that's the impact of VizConnect over here. And one thing which I particularly track is that how many people who join VizConnect have a Tableau public profile. And our speaker today will talk more about it, why it is important to have a Tableau public profile in your data visualization and storytelling journey, right? And just to understand how we can make our session more impactful, go ahead and capture which version of Tableau desktop you're using. So let me go ahead and introduce you to our speaker today. His name is Mark Bradbourne. Mark has spent 22 years working in analytics across a variety of industries. Now working for Tableau as a solution engineer, he's helping customers to see and understand their data. He's a former Tableau ambassador and former co-leader at the Cleveland Tableau user group. He has published over 240 visualization to his Tableau public profile, and he's a huge believer in the Tableau community for raising your skill bar. And the fun fact about Mark is that Mark is a musician, percussionist, drummer, and released 9 albums and EPs with various groups for the last 20 years. And today, Mark will be talking about exploring the escape room. Mark, over to you.
Thank you very much. So, hello, everybody. Today, I want to walk you through a bit of the escape room around how it came to be, what my goals were, and how it's kind of matured from there. As Sagar mentioned, my name is Mark Bradbourne. I've been in business intelligence and analytics for over 20 years. I was a customer of Tableau since 2012, very passionate about the platform, and about 9 months ago got the opportunity to join the company. It's been a very exciting transition to move from customer to employee, and it continues to be a passion of mine. So, but let's rewind. So, before joining Tableau, I worked for a regional bank as their Tableau evangelist. I was in charge of training. I would drive adoption. I would work with customers to do proof of concept development for dashboards and really tried to drive best practices throughout the bank. While I was there, I had created 2 classes, one for desktop development called Desktop Bootcamp, and another one called Web Authoring, where it was a half-day session on how to use the Tableau browser authoring. I was running their internal user group, but I needed to find a way to reach the consumers. And when you start thinking about a lot of things in the Tableau community, a lot of it is geared towards the developers. So user groups, webinars, generally it's focused at the developers, like how do we use new features? How do we explore different use cases? When we talk about training and community projects, those things like Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, obviously those are geared towards the developers as well. Your desktop classes offered from Tableau and from other vendors. There is within e-learning a path for consumers, and I'll talk to that in a little bit, but still I was struggling with how do I reach the consumers. So I started going to the community, as I generally do when I have questions about Tableau. I found in Tableau Public, Jenny, who I've met and I now consider a friend, was at Winston-Salem State University, and she had created a digital escape room. And I fell in love with the idea. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, would you mind if I kind of, took inspiration from your idea and kind of develop something in-house? She was like, absolutely. But my goal was to really push the boundaries. I wanted to add more functionality, and I really wanted to gamify the learning experience. So I set some goals for myself. I wanted to make it look business-like. So I wanted to have it look like something that you would see within the bank from a analytics perspective. And I wanted to get users playing with features. So I wanted them to use things that they would consume or come across when they were working in the bank. So dealing with filters and parameters and tooltips. And one thing that I definitely wanted to address was data literacy. A lot of people, if they're not used to analytics, if they're just looking at spreadsheets, they might not know how to read a chart. And a lot of us sometimes take it for granted, I think, that people just know how to read our dashboards. So I definitely wanted to kind of give them some guidance as to, how do you actually read this chart and make it simple enough that they can consume it, but challenging enough where they're hopefully pushing their own boundaries. As I started to build it, I found some challenges. So, how do you incorporate all these features? So things like clicking and dragging to select multiple bars to be a filter, reading viz and tooltips, adjusting parameters. So I had to come up with all of these use cases and actually develop a dashboard. I used Superstore Sales because it's kind of the perfect and cleanest data set you can find. And then on the back end, I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to use parameters to actually store the answers? And I need calculations to check validity of the answers. And I needed to give the user some feedback if they were wrong or right. And then along the way, I had to provide some sort of hints. And eventually I added the feature to have an answer key so they could check their answers if they weren't sure. So with all of those things in mind, I kind of set out to build the escape room. I think it took, with iteration and bug fixes, I think it took me about 30 days on and off of build to finish the dashboard to come up with all of these use cases. Now, the rest of the story on this was that I never actually got a chance to launch the escape room at the bank. Shortly after it was done, I took a new role with Tableau. I was in Seattle for boot camp, the Tableau's onboarding process, and I had coffee with a friend of mine in the learning team, and I was telling her about this, and I sent her the link. She sent it to her boss, and I got an email from her boss probably, I don't know, at least probably just the next day, and they asked if, if I would be willing to include it in the relaunch of e-learning, which, by the way, if you're not aware, right now, so today's April 17th, free, e-learning is free for the next 90 days. So if you've never checked out e-learning, I highly recommend it. It's 12 different learning paths, everything from the basic consumer, where you'll actually run through the escape room, to your server administrators and data scientists. Obviously, I happily agreed. I was honored to have something that I had built included in a piece of Tableau content. And the really kind of fun fact, I guess, for me is that last week, the escape room hit 100,000 views on Tableau Public. And I get loads and loads of really awesome messages through LinkedIn. Someone will do the escape room through e-learning, and they'll connect with me and they'll send me a note saying that they did the escape room and they love it and it was great. And I love hearing that feedback. So it's been it's probably my favorite thing that I've built in Tableau. And as Zigger mentioned, I've built over 240 Vizes in Tableau Public. And just as a side note, before I jump into the guts of the escape room, if you don't have a Tableau Public profile, I highly recommend it. It's been a game changer for me. I published my first visualization in October of 2016. I got involved in Makeover Monday, and I did Makeover Monday every week for 3 years straight, along with a bunch of other different projects, personal and community. And the effect that bit of practice, and I tell people, it's about an hour a week that I would spend, in the early days, to kind of just practice my craft and learn the tool. It's amazing how quickly your skills will develop. So again, I can't recommend a Tableau Public profile. And in addition, I would recommend subscribing to Viz of the Day to get an email on great content that's getting published to Tableau Public. It's a great source of inspiration. I've seen many visualizations that I've wanted to download and reverse engineer to learn how they did something new. And that's the beautiful thing about this product is there's always something new to learn. There's always a new technique or a new visualization type that the community is pushing the boundaries with. So there's no shortage of things to explore. So the guts of the escape room, and this is just one example that I wanted to show, and I'll actually jump into the workbook itself and walk through a couple of other things. But it all started with the parameter that had the question, and I had to figure out what the math was because I didn't want to necessarily use the text of the string. I wanted to use some sort of math to make sure I had the right number. So I assigned the correct numbers the value of 99, and the others get 1 through 3. From there, I do a question check, and that question check basically checks if the answer is right or not, and that is what's feeding the answer key. The next one down here, the secret word text. So secret word 1, that's the first word on the first escape room. If all the answers added up equal 396, then I provide the word. Now you'll notice that I've hidden the words because I don't want anybody cheating on that first room, and giving them some feedback as well. So if their answer is less than 3, I want to make sure they answer all their questions because at a minimum it would be 4 if everybody answered all the questions incorrectly. But at 3, I figured we can at least give them some feedback. If it's less than 9 or less than or equal to 9, they've answered none of the questions correct. Otherwise, I want them to get some feedback that it's not quite right, so keep working, trying to encourage them. Here is where I'm adding all of the questions together to get me to that 396. And then finally, once they have all the words, I basically string all the words together, and it creates a long, unique string. So if people are putting in random words, there's very little chance. It's like a heavily encrypted password. If it's correct, then I give them a yes, and the last screen gives them a congratulations message. Otherwise, it does give you some feedback that you haven't escaped and you have to go do some more work. So let's just jump into the workbook. and we can kind of just see, if you've never seen the escape room, this is the escape room. It starts out pretty simple. You know, how do I use a filter? So what was the total sales for the West region, you know, in 2017? So a couple of filter changes, and they can use the big number to get that value. So you can see I've changed this value. I know that's the right answer. Not quite right, so I haven't filled out all of the answers yet, but I'm at least getting some feedback. Now, if I were to answer, and shockingly, I don't have all this memorized, I can then go to the show hide for the check answer, so the answer key. And there's a sheet that is kind of floated over this worksheet that is hiding the answers. And this is just a simple show hide parameter, and I'll show you how that looks here in a second. But I can see that I've answered the first question right. The other three, I've still got some work to do. Now, if I jump into my hidden sheet here, you can see I've got this page 1 hide equals false. And if I go down, we can just see if my check answer equals 2, and that's basically a true false. And then check answers is just the toggle show and hide. So a lot of parameters, building on parameters, a lot of Boolean values, allowing me to return different things and basically make a functioning escape room. I actually found an error this morning. With a project this big, you're bound to find bits of things that are wrong. I actually found that those of you who've worked with level of detail, you've probably become very familiar with the order of operations. I have a fixed level of detail calculation, and the filter was actually missing it and providing a wrong answer here. And I had actually fixed it this morning. So hopefully that didn't frustrate too many people. I think I actually had the answer wrong too, so people were still getting through the escape room. Let's see, what else is interesting about the escape room? If you've never created a geographic element from a region that's not a geography, I created one here. And if you go through the context menu, you can go to the geographic role, and you can actually create a geographic region from the state. Now, the reason I do this is if I didn't have that region, these would all have the state dividers, and I wanted to show that it was actually the region showing the breakout. So it would look like this normally, but by creating that as a geographic region, it gives me those solid regional sections, so that when the user selects, it actually just, rather than selecting just one state. The other thing, I talked about hints. So on every room, there's a light bulb, and it's just a simple worksheet that has a tooltip, you know, so it gives the user a little bit of prodding. So what does that map do? And then, did you know you can click and drag to select bar charts? So if I wanted to, one of the questions asks about the bottom 5. So, you know, giving them instructions that, you know, they can do this and it's not going to hurt Tableau. So yeah, and as users just continue to walk through, you know, I did add the animation feature when 2020.1 came out, just to keep it up to date. So people got used to seeing that, if that's something that they're going to see in their environment. So I think for me, this is going to be a living, breathing project as Tableau puts out new features. I hope to continue to add to it and you know, make it a really useful resource for folks who are just learning Tableau from a consumer standpoint. So I think at that, why don't we open up and we can talk through some questions.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, just go ahead and put into the comment box or put in the Q&A tab. I will be happy to just go ahead and talk it to Mark. I think this is something which I have also struggled when I was a user before I was a customer before joining the app. And Mark, you said rightly that there are too many sessions for the creators, right? But you don't find much content for the explorers and viewers when you are in a particular organization. I think this is something that you can take it to them just so that they can understand the whole context of how exactly they can use it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you're starting to see more training come for consumers. I think
Right, right.
the focus on data literacy, is definitely bringing that to the forefront when we start to realize that not everybody has a desktop license, and people need to learn how to interact with these things. So, like when the new e-learning came out, I was really excited that they actually had a consumer track, um, so people could just learn to interact with Tableau.
And I have one question, Mark. Sorry, please go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if anybody had questions. Please don't be shy.
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel has a question.
She's saying, I think this would be good for our user group we are starting.
The audio broke up a bit. I'm sorry. What was that?
So she's saying, I think this would be good for our user group we are starting.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. I actually had a thought of trying to build a user group activity where people could get into groups and work through the escape room as groups, and maybe, see who can get through it the fastest, and maybe, have a prize, to get people kind of engaged and learning. Um, but it would be interesting to get, like, within your organization, if you got your consumers together and did that, because I think developers have an unfair advantage. Obviously, they know how all those things work. So I think it would be very interesting to see, how a group of consumers would do it. But I love that idea, of seeing it in a user group.
Right. Daniel, can you hear us? I think I've just added you to the conversation.
He's muted.
Yeah. I think you are muted. Can you hear
There you
us?
go.
Hello.
I couldn't hear you for a while, but now I can hear you.
Hey, how are you? We can hear you, Daniel. How are you?
I'm doing well. I work at Temple University in Philadelphia, and we're just starting up a user group. We've had like one meeting, and now we're trying to figure out how to do it virtually. But this is really great, because we were kind of focused on our publishers or creators too, and I'd like I would hadn't really thought about how to engage or had any ideas on how to engage the users. So I think this would be helpful for us.
Absolutely, and please feel free. So this is on my Tableau public profile. You don't have to go through e-learning to do it. So if you wanted to put together an exercise for your internal user group, by all means, go out to my Tableau public profile and, reference it from there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And, as someone who ran an internal user group for a bank, and most of it was virtual, if you ever need tips or want to run ideas, please, hit me up on Twitter, or you can send me a message through LinkedIn. Always happy to help and assist with that stuff.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's really great. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Just paste your profile. Any other question anyone has? No other questions from anyone?
If not, that's fine. If people have questions, they can always send me a message through LinkedIn or through Twitter. Um, always happy to talk about Tableau and help in any way that I can. I like to say that I was born from the community, and I continue to give back in that way, even though I'm an employee. So, by all means, please, reach out to me if you've got questions about the escape room, about internal user groups, about anything really. So please, reach out.
I'm not sure, Mark, if you have some time, can you give just some quick tips and tricks in Tableau to everyone that is on the call?
Oh, tips and
Anything you feel should be good for them just to, yeah. I think that would be a great
um,
exercise for them. Yeah.
actually, so Davey just asked a question here. Do I have suggestions on how to get end users used to navigating a dashboard? One of the things that I've seen people do is actually use a container and they'll float it on top of their dashboard, and they'll take a screenshot of the dashboard and annotate it in PowerPoint, save that as an image, and then kind of overlay that. And then by using the show hide button, you can, make that overlay, and you can see the outline there. You can see and you can make that disappear. And it can actually be a really nice way to introduce somebody to a dashboard, to show them, you can click here to affect this metric, or if you touch this visualization, it'll filter the other ones. The other thing that I've seen people do is actually record a very short video and just embed that video content in the first page of the dashboard. So, this might be the main dashboard. You have another dashboard with some embedded web content, and walk through it live. So here, and just give a talk track. So, here's our monthly sales dashboard. I can click here to change the dates. I can click here to change the regions. And even show people how to set up, if it's on Tableau server, show them how to set up a custom view, or things like that, to really kind of drive the instruction home. And that reference is always there as a video. So those are two ways that I've seen people use to get people used to navigating a dashboard. That's a really great question. As far as reading charts, that's a great question, and a challenging one, because everybody learns differently. A lot of people learn from doing. Some people want to read books. Others, might want to hear or see a video. So depending on their learning style, the one thing I would suggest is don't limit the learning to one aspect. So if you can provide some data literacy concepts in multiple ways to get people engaged, that's a great thing to do. It's kind of like when you develop dashboards and to talk about tips and tricks. If you're dealing with mobile layouts, always add all three. So always add a tablet, a phone, and a desktop. And the reason you do that is depending on people's resolution. So if you've never worked with mobile, the server doesn't say, oh, Mark's on an iPhone. It says Mark's resolution is, for a phone, it's 375 by 667. So I had a boss who actually ran in a very high resolution due to his eyesight. So what I was serving up was a desktop monitor, but his laptop was actually running at a tablet resolution. So he was getting the tablet view, and he was wondering why things were missing. So always create all three views, and then you can actually use the default as a catch-all. You put all the content on your default and then build each view custom. So if you've got a chart type that works in the desktop, but maybe it's not great on the tablet, you can actually do a different kind of visualization. Lots of cool things that you can do with these mobile layouts. So there's a tip and trick.
Perfect. And Mark, do you want to show the escape room on the Tableau public? I think there is a question about what they should do. So Abhineet is asking what should we enter as for passwords 1 to 4.
So,
We just want to understand how we can use it. Yeah, please go ahead.
right. So as you go through each screen, when you put in the correct answers, let me just go into room 1. So down here, once you have the 4 questions answered correctly, it'll actually pop up a word, and it'll be in all caps, so you know that you've gotten the right word. And the suggestion is down here, once you reveal the first secret word, write it down because you'll need it later. And then you go to the next room, same thing. You'll answer the 4 questions, write down the password. Now, when you get to the 4th room, and I'll just fast forward ahead, the last button will actually send you back to the home screen to put in the 4 passwords. Once you put in the 4 passwords, you click escape, and if I had done it correctly, it would say, congratulations, you've escaped the room. But here I haven't put in the words, or I haven't put in the secret passwords, so I'm being asked to try again. So the 4 words, actually, the 4 passwords come from each dashboard's set of questions.
Awesome. And I think I have a challenge for everyone on the call. So maybe by today, whoever, maybe the top 5 who sends the correct screenshot of all the answers, all the passwords are correct, will go ahead and give you a Tableau swag or something. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah, I'd love it. I'd love to see. I love when people tell me that they've completed it, because that basically means that it's working.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, so just go ahead, take a screenshot of it, tag me and Mark on Twitter, and happy to just connect with you and understand and give it you the swag, whatever things are normal with it.
Yeah, it's great.
Another question, I'm just seeing it. And Mark, do you want to show your blog also? Like just to
Oh, sure. Since we're here,
yeah.
so for Tableau content, I have a website. Whoops, if I'm not in me mode, called Sons of Hierarchies. For anybody who is a fan of American television, there was a motorcycle gang television show called Sons of Anarchy, which I kind of stole the title from. And you can actually read about that story here, how the whole name came to be. But so myself and Brian Moore write this blog, and there's lots of different things. So there's tips and tricks. There's kind of think pieces around data and the Tableau community. So lots of different content. I think I've been writing the blog for three plus years now. By all means, my blog and all of the other Tableau blogs within the community are great resources for learning.
Okay. Yeah, I can just close down the session, Mark. We don't have any questions for you. Any final words from?
I guess my final thought is, I would imagine that if you're seeing this, you're plugged into the Tableau community in some way, shape, or form. But if you're not, or if you've got colleagues who are not, encourage them to get involved. It truly was a career-changing event when I started to engage with the Tableau community. I started on the community forums asking questions. I learned a great deal there. Once I got plugged in on Twitter, that's when I really started to get deeply involved and started answering questions on the forums. I started writing a blog. So it really can drive your career to places where you didn't think it could go. So, I encourage you to get involved as deeply as you can. Use the forums. If you want, write a blog, do a podcast. Find some way that you can find value from the community, and then once you feel like you're ready, give back to the community so that you can help and inspire the next generation of the Tableau data fam.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Mark, for your time today.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I know we've been talking about doing this for a long time, so I'm glad we finally got it to happen.
Perfect. Yeah. Yep. Take care of yourself. Be safe, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Yep. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.